She was 24 years old, the prime of life for a girl. She could have gotten married, had children, but this was not meant to happen because the life of today's heroine, Lydia Buslaeva, ended in 2011. So who was behind this terrible crime? Lydia Buslaeva was born in 1987 into a good family. When she went to school, the teachers immediately saw that they had a very smart and quick-witted child in front of them, as the girl caught everything on the fly. Such children are called homebodies, because I remember Lydia as calm, modest, well-mannered. At the same time, I can't call her introverted. She communicated a lot with her peers. She had friends, Lydia's teacher told. She studied well in all subjects, although Lydia's main passion was literature, or to be more precise, reading books. The girl read always and everywhere at home, during breaks, on the bus when she was going to school. At first, Lydia read everything indiscriminately, but in her teenage years, when her taste was formed, she realized that she liked German poets of the 18th and 19th centuries the most: Goethe, Schiller, Heine, Mann. Therefore, it was not a surprise to anyone when Lydia began to study German on her own in order to read her favorite authors in the original. However, Deutsch was not easy for her. Understanding that she lacked systematic language education, at the age of 14, Lydia entered a pedagogical college, and after it, she went to Samara Pedagogical University, where, as one can easily guess, she studied German. After graduating from the university, the girl decided to continue her education in graduate school. In 2009, she participated in a competition for graduate students and, having won it, went to study in Germany. Lydia returned to Russia at the end of 2010, continuing her studies in the second year of graduate school at Samara Pedagogical University, and began writing a dissertation on Friedrich Schiller. In addition to her studies, Lydia managed to work as a translator in the international department of her university, earning a reputation as a very attentive and diligent employee. I can say that she was remembered as a very friendly person, always greeted everyone. She came to the dormitory only to sleep. She spent whole days at the department either studying or working, said a student who lived in the same dormitory with Lydia. Holidays: the Day of National Unity in 2011 fell on a Friday, and Lydia decided to spend the long weekend on a trip to her parents, who lived in the city of Chapayevsky, located 50 kilometers from Samara. Lydia had a great time with her father, mother, and brother, and on the morning of November 6th, she began to prepare for the return journey. Her family saw her off to the bus stop, handed her a bag of homemade preparations, and waved goodbye to the departing bus. She called me around 13:30, saying that she had reached the Samara bus station and was now heading to the public transport stop to go to the dormitory. I asked her to call from there. The daughter lived on Bluchera, 23. It takes at most 20 to 25 minutes to get there, but she didn't call back either after 1 hour or after 2. During that call, I noticed something strange. Her voice sounded very cheerful and joyful, but there were no voices of other people or transport in the background. It was unnaturally quiet there. I think she was sitting in a car. I can't imagine why she had to hide the truth. Lydia's mother told. Not hearing from their daughter, the parents tried to contact her themselves. At first, there were long beeps on the phone, and around 17:30 her phone turned off and never turned on again. Such strange behavior was not at all like Lydia, so the worried parents got in the car and went to the university dormitory, where their daughter was supposed to be. But the dormitory guard and Lydia's roommates told the graduate students' parents that they last saw her 2 days ago, November 4th, when she left the dormitory. Upon learning this, the girl's father and mother went to the police. The police were not in a hurry to search for Lydia, as she was of legal age, and only a few hours had passed since her disappearance. In the end, the girl could have stopped by her friends, and her phone simply ran out of battery. Meanwhile, the girl's relatives were calling Lydia's friends. Not learning anything new from them, they switched to hospitals and morgues. The graduate student had not been admitted there either. In fact, the search for Lydia did not even begin, because on the morning of November 8th, a security guard of the radio center, located in the village of Ms.Creepy 30 kilometers from Samara, called the police. While patrolling the territory, he noticed a young girl lying in the snow a few dozen meters from the country road. Due to the negative temperature, law enforcement officers could not determine the exact time of death, but judging by the fact that all the traces near her were covered with snow, which fell on November 6th and 7th, this happened shortly after she left the bus station. Among the girl's belongings, a bag with a mobile phone, wallet, and passport disappeared, as well as earrings, while the rest of the jewelry, a gold bracelet, and chain remained with her. One of the girl's gloves also disappeared. The murder weapon, a screwdriver or an AWOL, as well as other evidence that could point to the perpetrator, could not be found. It seems that the criminal acted very carefully, making sure not to leave any traces. For example, the killer's DNA could have remained on the glove, so he took it with him. But the bag with the preparations that Lydia's parents gave her, the criminal left untouched. Interestingly, in addition to the canned food, there was also a pack of halva in the bag. It seems that the girl bought it later. Unfortunately, the police could not determine where and when it was purchased. The disappearance of the girl's belongings, some jewelry, and the fact that she was not forced into intimacy suggested a robbery that did not go according to plan. Therefore, the first to come under the scrutiny of law enforcement were local criminal elements and other suspicious individuals. The greatest interest of the police was aroused by a homeless man who lived in an abandoned doghouse next to a radio tower, located 300 meters from the crime scene. He looked about 50 years old. In the last days of October, I spoke with him, asked how he ended up in such a situation. He replied that he had been spending the night here for about a week, as he fell ill while fishing and could not get home. He looked like a typical homeless man, slept in a pile of old rags, said a resident of Ms.Creepy. However, when on November 8th the police tried to talk to this man, the doghouse where he lived was empty. The mysterious homeless man disappeared without a trace. Jumping ahead, I will say that it was not possible to find him. However, he was not the only suspect. Unexpectedly for everyone, the next suspects were two young Nigerians, Ms.Creepy Samueloa and Prince Ovalabi. They, like Lydia, studied at Samara Pedagogical University and lived in the same dormitory. In February 2011, Lydia's neighbor accused these students of forcing her into intimacy. The main witness in the case was our graduate student. She confirmed her friend's testimony, which, according to unconfirmed data, led to threats from the Nigerians. Later, Ms.Creepy and Prince were found guilty, each sentenced to 4 years in prison, but investigators could not link the Nigerians with the deceased graduate student, and they were excluded from the list of suspects. 1.5 years before the murder of Lydia Buslaeva, a very similar crime occurred in the village of Ms.Creepy. That time, the victim was a mother of many children, 34-year-old Galina Nikitina. Having lost her husband, the woman took to alcohol. She was usually accompanied by 2 brothers named Liaman. They became the main suspects in the case. but in the end they were released because there was no evidence against the men. The case was closed. After the tragedy repeated in November 2011, rumors began to circulate among the locals about a serial maniac, because the criminal used a similar murder weapon and again left no traces. The police could not confirm or refute this version. A real breakthrough in the case occurred on November 20th, when the forensic expert's conclusion was ready. From it, it became known that at the time of death, Lydia was in the second month of pregnancy. Now it was necessary to establish the identity of the father of the unborn child. The problem was that Lydia preferred to keep her personal life secret even from her closest friends. Rumors helped. It had long been noticed at the university that Lydia was in suspiciously warm relations with her scientific advisor, who helped her with her dissertation, 42-year-old Alexander Ignashov. Ignashov reluctantly agreed to give DNA. When the results of the analysis came, the information was confirmed he was indeed the father of the child. Alexander Ignashov was born in 1969 into an intellectual family. After finishing school in Samara, he went to study in Moscow, entering the A.M. Gorky Literary Institute. Having graduated in 1996, the young man decided to return to his homeland. Over the next years, Ignashov wrote several books and plays, for which he received a number of literary and theatrical awards, including the Medal for Contribution to National Culture. At the same time, Alexander began to appear on local television. He was the author and host of several programs, such as Collection and Samara Fates. His professional attitude to work and inexhaustible enthusiasm helped him to take the position of chief editor at the DLD TV channel in 2009. He also managed to teach at Samara Pedagogical University, where he obviously met Lydia. "I've known Sasha for about 20 years, says Dmitry Ionov, the chief director of the DLD channel, and the fact that he could commit a crime is absurd. He was very sick. He had blood cancer. Sasha was very weak. He had a pinched vertebra, so he limped. He couldn't even shake hands properly." Indeed, Ignashov was seriously ill in 2011. However, this did not prevent him from working 2 jobs, writing a new book, raising children, having an affair on the side, and undergoing treatment at the same time. Not every healthy person can manage to do so many things at once. Hence the question arises, was Ignashov really feeling that bad in November 2011? Law enforcement officers also doubted that Alexander was so ill that he could not lift a pen from the floor, and therefore on November 29th, they detained him, naming the prominent Samara playwright as the main suspect in the case. While in prison, Alexander Ignashov agreed to take a lie detector test, but he failed it, thereby strengthening the investigators' suspicions. The man's alibi also raised doubts. According to his testimony, that day he went to the market to buy shoes. However, he returned in the evening without any purchases, and the sellers could not remember him coming to them. Investigators asked me many times what oddities I remember from our last conversation with my daughter. After the silence in the background, I remember the joyful voice of my daughter. She was rarely so happy. I think at that moment Lydia was next to a loved one, Lydia's mother told. The surveillance cameras installed at the bus station confirmed the assumption of the graduate student's mother. There a man met the girl, with whom they left in the direction of the parking lot. Unfortunately, the quality of the video did not allow to identify the stranger, but from the recording it becomes clear that the graduate student knew him. Another strange coincidence was that Ignashov had a friend who lived in Novosmykino. He often visited him, so the man knew the places where they found Lydia. The next interesting point, according to the girls' call history, the last time Lydia called was Ignashov. This happened on November 6th at around 13. Their conversation lasted 15 seconds. What were they talking about? Alexander said that he is at the market and cannot talk. Although the police managed to gather quite a few pieces of evidence against Ignashov, all of them were indirect. In contrast to them was Alexander's medical history and the fact that, according to billing data, his phone did not leave Samara on November 6th. Therefore, he was released 5 days after his arrest. The public was dissatisfied with the fact that Alexander Ignashov was released and demanded a new investigation. Probably the police would not have done this if they had not learned about the mysterious disappearance of the suspect's mother, Vera Ignashova. It turned out that the woman had disappeared back in 2005, but her son, being her only close relative, did not even try to look for her and did not inform anyone about his mother's disappearance. This added another layer of mystery to the case. He was not surprised when asked about his mother and said that he last saw her in the early 2000s. According to him, the woman was part of some sect. That's why he stopped communicating with his mother, said a source familiar with the situation. According to Alexander, in recent years his mother lived with a woman named Varvara, who had a strong influence on her. He even helped to make a composite sketch of this mysterious stranger. The belated search for Vera Ignashova led to nothing. It was also impossible to establish the identity of Varvara, who allegedly lived with the old woman and lured her into some sect. What can be said for sure? Alexander inherited a 3-room apartment from his mother, which he successfully rented out all these years. A bit suspicious behavior, isn't it? In 2017, the investigative committee of the Samara region resumed the investigation into the murder of Lydia Buslaeva, but this time the case did not go to court again. The prosecutor's office believed that the evidence collected is insufficient to bring the case to court. Since then, there have been no developments in the case. So today, Alexander Ignashov continues to live his former life. He writes plays and also holds the position of chief editor of JSC television and radio company Rio and deputy chief editor of the magazine Samara Fates. His wife supported Alexander for many years, denying that he was capable of committing a crime. However, in 2015, she suddenly filed for divorce and moved away from her husband with the children. Whoever was behind this crime, I'm sure the victim knew her offender. After all, Lydia couldn't have been so happy to meet him if she wasn't familiar with him. And of course, she wouldn't have gone anywhere with him if she didn't trust him. Although Ignashov is the most obvious suspect, it should be noted that Lydia was a closed personality, and she could have had another secret admirer. Now, 13 years after the death of Lydia Buslaeva, there is almost no hope that the case will be reopened. The relatives of the graduate student also do not hope for this. We can't bring our daughter back. Who deprived her of life? I don't know, but I think it's the one she trusted, the man she loved. He escaped punishment, but sooner or later he will have to answer for it, said Lydia's mother.